Good evening and welcome to our program, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and we have a delightful lady with us I'm going to introduce in just a few minutes. In fact, we're going to be doing a series of 3 shows back to back to back, featuring the wives of the men who are running for sheriff here in Carson City. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the first half of our program. We'd like to thank Dr. Kent Gabriel, noted plastic surgeon right here in Carson City. Dr. Gabriel's specialty is microsurgery of the hands. We'd also like to thank Bank of the West, which is one of your most customer-friendly banks that you can walk into right here in Carson. Remember that name, Bank of the West, for courteous and customer service-oriented business. We'd also like to thank the Horseshoe Club right here in downtown Carson City. If you'd like to step into their newly renovated, refurbished dining room for a supper, please do so right here in the historic district. And now, let me introduce to you Phyllis Furlong. Phyllis, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
You know, this is kind of a first for Women to Women, where we're featuring very special ladies who are very special backups for very special men, okay? And we'd like to get to know you as a person, though. Our audience, I think, probably has seen you frequently on the highways and the byways here in Carson City. But where do you come from originally, Phyllis?
I was born in Arkansas, and I actually moved to Nevada when I was I guess I was 7.
Okay.
My father worked for Meeks Lumber Company
Yes.
in Arkansas and then transferred to Nevada. And so I consider myself a native, I think.
Pretty much so, yes.
Started third grade here, so.
Great. And when you're 7, it's not as much of an impact perhaps on you as when you're 16 or 17.
Exactly.
You can make new friends. So here in Carson City, when you arrived, what are your memories of the place?
I think the first thing I remember was the Nevada Day Parade. Pardon me. And it was the 100th
Very
birthday.
special.
And a lot of the casinos had the floats.
Yes.
And the people from Bonanza, Lauren Green, and everybody, they were riding their horses in the parade.
Lucky
and,
you.
Yeah, I remember as a child, that was just really exciting.
Very.
So that was one of my first memories here.
So those of us who had to sit in front of a television set, you had the real thing.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful show.
Yeah, it was.
So did you graduate from Carson High School?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and did you go on with your education after that?
I did when Kenny was in the military. I was taking
Okay.
some computer science classes. Unfortunately, I didn't finish. It was difficult to do with the constant moving, but
Yes.
you know, the computer technology changes so quickly that if you don't
Rapidly.
stay right on top of it, it's pretty difficult.
So where'd you meet this gentleman?
I met Kenny when we were 14.
Oh, childhood.
Yes,
Really?
he was actually a friend of one of my girlfriends.
Okay.
She was a little bit older, and she had a driver's license. So he was walking down the street one day, and she and I were riding around, and she picked him up and kind of went from there.
Very good. Okay,
Yeah.
that was kind of like instant attraction, but also instant interest.
Right.
What were your interests when you were growing up primarily?
I liked to read. I did a lot of reading. I was not necessarily a straight-A student,
Okay.
but I liked biology, those type of classes.
Sciences.
Yeah, sciences very, very much interest me. And it was funny because I disliked math with a passion, and became, you know, I did accounting most of my life. So it's interesting how you change. And,
It is.
and
It
it
is.
goes up.
What we were at 14, we're not at 24.
No,
What we were
not
at
at all.
24, we're not at 34.
Right.
So for you, I know that math was always a challenge for me, but I loved it because it always turned out balanced. Okay?
Right.
Unlike a lot of other things in life.
Right.
So when you and Kenny were moving about in the military, where did that take you?
Let's see, our first base was actually Arkansas, which was 18 miles from my grandmother. And my mom came from a family of 16 kids, so I had a lot of relatives there.
Oh my word!
So that was exciting, especially for Kenny, because he had never been really outside of Nevada, other than I think he went to the Junior Olympics in San Francisco. He ran there.
And Arkansas is a beautiful state.
Oh, it is. It's gorgeous. And
Lots of humidity, though.
Yes.
Not like Carson
yes.
City.
We were right on the Mississippi River, too.
Ooh,
right across from
okay.
Memphis. But let's see, our first one was Arkansas. And then we came back to Sacramento. We spent almost 8 years in Sacramento.
Long
And
time.
then Kenny went to Korea after we left Sacramento. So the kids and I came back to Carson City.
Yes.
And after that, we went to Southern California, to Riverside area.
You worked. You did get around.
Yes. Then from Riverside, we went to North Carolina, which is also beautiful.
Yes.
We had a wonderful time in North
Again,
Carolina.
very humid.
Yes. And from North Carolina, we went to Germany.
Oh.
And actually, he finished up, he had 6 months left, I believe, in the States, and he went to Nellis Air Force Base. And Kendra and I came back here. My son had already graduated, and he was in the military then in Japan. So
you really are a military family in many ways.
Yes.
Do you think that's a part of the training that Kenny received, both mentally, psychologically, for later?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The military life was really good for us. It, I don't know. I think sometimes you appreciate things when you don't have as much, and you have to budget. And we really had a good time. We made a lot of close friends. His work, even in the military, was law enforcement.
Okay.
So
does that mean he was an MP?
No, he was an SP originally, security police.
Okay.
Because it's Air Force. And then after the security police, he went into OSI, which is the Office of Special Investigations.
Yes.
It's like NCIS. You see that on TV.
Yes.
That's what the Air Force is, OSI.
Okay.
And that was really interesting. It was difficult for me at times, though, because he would go places and he would call and say, pack a bag for me for a week. Yes. I wouldn't know where he was going, what he was doing. Those kind of things were
and that's
a little
part
bit.
of the military life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Besides not knowing exactly or all the time what your husband is involved with or where he's going to be sent, what is it like? What is it like being a military wife? For those of us who've never lived on base or never been married to a military personnel, what is it like?
I don't know how to describe it other than it's here. It's in your heart. I remember, watching TV, I think they were called the Wild Weasels when they were doing the bombing in Baghdad and stuff, and they were from the North Carolina area.
Yes.
And just my heart was in my throat, but you're so proud, yet it's so devastating because you know the people. You know that that's somebody's son or that's somebody's, daughter.
Oh, yes.
And or husband, and it's just it's a very close-knit community when you're in the military. It's
your
very
friendships
close.
Are forever.
They are forever. They are forever. And people are very friendly, not standoffish. Like when you go to a new town, sometimes people are a little bit, you don't know your neighbor. It's not like that in the military. So.
I live in a retired community here in Carson City, primarily made up of retired military personnel, their wives, and it is the friendliest place I've ever lived.
Yeah, it is.
They don't know my first name, but it's an automatic welcome and acceptance of you. I haven't been reprimanded yet for anything. Okay. Tell us about your children.
Oh, my children are wonderful. I'm so proud of my kids. Our daughter. Well, first let me tell you about our son. He's the oldest.
Okay.
And he was born here in Carson City. And our daughter was born in Arkansas. So it's kind of interesting that Kenny and Kevin were born here, and Kendra and I were born in Arkansas. But he graduated high school in Ramstein, Germany. And then he came back to Carson City, started working for Copeland Lumber Company. And of course, they closed their doors.
Right.
So now he is assistant manager with Home Depot.
Okay.
And we're very proud of him. He's married and has 2 cute little girls. And then our daughter, Kendra, as most people know, she had her issues early on with some drug abuse, and she has come so far. She just finished her bachelor's degree.
Wonderful.
We're so proud of her.
Wonderful.
In Health and Human Services, and
Great.
She's working for, it's called SAPTA, which is Substance Abuse Prevention. I don't know what the TA
She's getting back for what she
Yes,
received.
absolutely, and that's what's important to her.
Yes.
And what she wants to do. So,
what have you learned from your children in all these travels? What have you learned about
how
kids?
resilient they are. We had to take them kicking and screaming sometimes, but when they would get to the new place, they would make new friends. Then they wouldn't want to leave that one, and it's just interesting. We're very fortunate that they're still here in town with us. So
Yes,
we
you
still
are.
have our kids and our grandkids, everybody right here.
That is, that's a great personal story that you have, just in and by itself. So tell us about this gentleman that you're married to and why you think he's got a real good chance for re-election. What makes him unique? What makes him tick?
What makes Kenny tick? Kenny's quite a character. He really is. And but he loves his, I hate to even call it a job, because to him it's not a job.
It's a passion.
Yes, it's a way of life, and he loves Carson. He loves the people. He loves to be out and about. And, you know, as his wife, sometimes I'm like, gee, you know, it'd be nice if we could go to the movie or something. But, you know, he loves what he does, and I go out with him as much as I can.
Yes.
He just, Carson City has always been home, even though we were gone for 20 years, basically. We always came back here for vacations and everything, and this is home. This is our community, and he wants to make sure it's the best that it can be, and the safest that it can be.
Yes. You know, I'm going to ask you a question when we come back, and that is, when you're out with Kenny driving about, whether it's day or evening or, you know, the dead of night, what is it that you see that's different, that you're having to think about, deal with, and take a look into the future, so to speak, so that you're prepared? Because things have changed since you were a 7-year-old and came here. And when you graduated, I'm sure things have changed. And when you came back out of the military life into Carson City, again, we always see this bustle, this hubbub, but there's usually, there's great delight, there are also special concerns. We're going to talk about that when we come back, okay? All right, don't go away. We have a lot to learn about this lady and her husband.
I was 36, wanted to do something that was boldly different. We sold our house and drove west with the idea that we were going to be in the wine industry. We lived in a teepee for 2 months.
I mean, if you're going to do something, why not do it with your whole heart?
It's that creative outlet of being able to make something, and make something that comes from the land. Bank of the West said, we have complete faith in your brand. Don't do anything to compromise it. Banks don't say things like that.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
Apex SCF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
Come to the Carson Horseshoe Club for fun and friendly service. Play your favorite games, join our Players Club where you get cash for points plus food comps, and enjoy casual dining in our Lucky Horse Grill. Get it all in the heart of downtown Carson City at the family-owned, local favorite Carson Horseshoe Club.
In business for over 5 years, Player Owned Music offers music lessons from the best quality music instructors in the area. We also offer band instrument rentals, guitar repair, and we have a recording studio on site. Call us at 885-PLAY.
Welcome back to the second portion of our program. We're here with Phyllis Furlong, who has had a most interesting life on part one, okay? And now we're here talking about her husband and herself, and their encouraging reflections on what it means to run again for re-election as sheriff, and also what it means to continue to live in an environment where your husband is the sheriff. So we'll return to Phyllis in just a moment. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the second half of our program. Villa Basque Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. It's made right here on the premises, and it's delicious. We'd also like to thank Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, aged balsamic vinegar, and international health teas. And we'd also like to thank carsonnow.org, which is the 24/7 place to go. When you want to find out what's happening, what just happened overnight in Carson City, that's the place, carsonnow.org. So let's return to Phyllis. Phyllis, again, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you.
You know, before we kind of left the first half, we were talking about riding around. And my father was a mayor of the city where I came from, and that was one of his committed things, and I think it was a passion with him too, because the cities are often different during the daytime than they are at night. So when you and Kenny go out riding, what is it that you notice together as grandparents or as former parents and as people who are interested in protecting the city?
Well, you know, I think it's a little bit difficult to answer that because it's different each night, I suppose. Carson's much more quiet now than it used to be. I mean, when I was a kid, we were up and down Main Street.
Rowdyism. Okay.
Yes, we were.
Okay.
So that's a little different. Carson, I think now the high school concerns me a bit.
Okay. Which would be true across the country.
I think so. I think any parent or any grandparent, like you said, would be concerned. Unfortunately, our high school's gotten so big now that I'm worried should anything happen, there may be, problems getting all those kids out of there. But I know that they practice and they do what they need to do, and it's just my children told me. Kendra graduated from Carson High when we came back. She actually came back in as a senior, which was tough for her.
Yes, very.
And she said that the kids at Carson are very cliquish, which I don't think they were as I was growing up. I don't remember that so much, other than there were the athletes and the cheerleaders and then the regular kids, But she said actually the further she got away from the school, the friendlier the kids were. And that's when she started to get in, have a little bit of her issues. So that concerns me with any child, especially new and coming in. So many of the people here have, they've all grown up together.
Yes, and as you said, coming in as a senior is a very difficult move. And there's a great deal of inside resistance to doing that. I know when I was a high school teacher, and it was predominantly with the military. We had, of course, West Point Military Academy. It was right on the campus that I taught at. And the parents were involved in the Persian Gulf War. They were involved in the Iraqi-Kuwait situation. And most of those kids, they lived two very different lives because they were concerned about their parents. And that camaraderie that their classmates had in growing up, they didn't share.
Right.
So there were special issues just for them that had to be addressed. And I think the larger a school system is, it becomes, it's very difficult to make it personal rather than impersonal.
Right.
So I can see from an adult and from a teacher's point of view where you're coming from as a parent and grandparent.
Right, but at the same time, if you were to split it into two high schools, I think that would be difficult as well. I graduated from there as Carson High Senators, and to have two full-fledged high schools. I realize we have the charter schools and those things, but I think there would be so much rivalry, we might have a little bit more problems than we do now. But
and I can remember in an interview that we did with your husband not too far back in time, one of the questions was the security. A parent raised it, and he reassured us that there is a plan in place. There's a security plan in place. And I remember not having that plan in place when the World Trade Centers, the two towers, and I was in New York in school teaching. And we just did our fire drill, but realized afterwards that's not nearly sufficient, So it's good to know that this is on his agenda.
Absolutely.
It's on his radar screen.
Absolutely, and they practice it. And I know he's trying to get 2 more officers in the school. That's his goal. So I think that will help as well. But for the most part, I think things, since we've been back in Carson, have gotten better. We don't see as much graffiti as we used to. We don't seem to have as much gang problems as there used to be. I'm very proud of what he's done and what, it's not just him, the officers.
Right. So how do you find personal time with this man? When
I
he
get
actually
to go on vacation once every 4 years.
Really, that long in between?
After election time,
Yes, yes.
we usually get to go take
Good.
vacation. But other than that, you know, we take our boat out in the summertime
Mm-hmm.
and go up to Lake Tahoe as often as we can. And that for us is very, very relaxing. So,
You know, you're so fortunate when you live in this area and you've grown up as long as you have here to have that instant vacation place
Yes.
right at your fingertips.
Yes, yeah.
Most of us in the rest of the country don't have that.
Right, right.
So that's a genuine gem. It's a treasure. Well, what else do you think is on the radar screen for Kenny? You think that the security system at the high school, okay, there's one in place, working on 2 more officers to be in the schools.
Right.
Is that through the DARE program, or is that
No,
through
I
some-
think they're looking actually to hire 2 officers
Okay.
to be in the middle schools.
All
So we
right.
have, you know, the one that's at the high school now,
Okay.
and she also goes to the middle schools.
Okay.
But Kenny would like to see an officer in each middle school and at the high school, just to be there. You
Right,
know.
and I think for students, that's a neat way, and it's a real way to get to know who the officers are in
Oh,
town.
absolutely.
It builds relationships that otherwise they would have no opportunity to do so.
Absolutely, we try to do that with, you know, the Cops and Kids and National Night Out and DARE, all that as well. And I think it's just been wonderful.
What else do you see at night when you're driving around with him? What
Actually,
encourages you?
Actually, Carson City seems pretty quiet. You know, during special times, like when we have Taste of Downtown and those type of things, sometimes it'll get a little rowdy afterwards.
Right.
But for the most part, it's very quiet, very peaceful downtown.
Okay.
So he likes to sit and park and wait in case somebody graffitis this wall back here. I'm sorry, that bores me. And I was be like, Kenny, I'm ready to go home, you know.
I think you have a lot of cooperation also from the Chamber of Commerce because Ronnie Hanneman was saying that graffiti is not here to stay in Carson.
Right.
They're going to find it, take it out.
Right,
You do
right.
it. So you have a lot of cooperation from a lot of different organizations.
Oh,
I think, too.
absolutely, absolutely.
There's a pride here in Carson City that's historical, but it's also built on lots of relationships and growing up. And people seem to want to present the very best that they can of the city. And what do you have in your mind in terms, will Carson ever become a tourist city again, do you think?
You know, I don't know. I was kind of hoping with the train that the train would come into Carson. I thought maybe that might do a little more, and you know, maybe eventually it will. I think Carson City has typically always been mainly state offices and those type of things.
What's the capital?
It's the capital, and I hope we're never like Reno and Las Vegas. To be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with those communities, but we're so small here.
Right.
I enjoy it the way it is. We have enough, you know, we can take hike up in the mountains, just go up 5th Street and go up, you know, and those kind of things are important to me, to keep it more small town.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the freeway that once it's completed, what does that mean for your family, for your grandchildren, for Carson itself?
Well, the freeway, I'm afraid, is going to bypass everything. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect with that, to be honest with you.
We would only be guessing.
Right, right. So, you know, I'm glad to see some new stores moving in.
Yes, yes.
And I hope that continues. But the freeway itself, I don't know. It concerns me a little. Turning Carson Street to 1 lane concerns me a little.
Okay.
But you know, we'll see. I remember when Carson Street was originally just the 2-lane street, and we were so excited when it got bigger. So
Okay, but was there a real need for it at that time? Did you see?
You know, I was a kid, to be
Okay,
honest
so
with
you
you,
saw
but
it
I
with
can
different eyes.
remember when the motorcycle groups would come into town and they'd be parked all along the front of the Nugget
Yes.
on Main Street. No, I thought that was kind of neat. But I just remember being excited and my parents being excited when it actually
Change
went.
was coming in the
Yes,
wind.
yes,
In the wind.
yeah. So
Well, if I were to ask you one of my final questions, it may be the final one. If you were to describe Kenny in 3 adjectives, 3 words, what comes to your mind that you'd like to have the public realize about him?
Kenny is funny. He's funny. He keeps me laughing, which you have to laugh.
And you need to have a sense of humor on the job that he
Yes, you do.
carries.
He's very dedicated. He's, like I said before, Carson City means everything to him.
He's pretty much given his life to it.
Yes, he has. And he's wanted to be sheriff his whole life.
Okay, so dedication, sense of humor.
Right. And I think that the last one would be Kenny's he's a good man. He's a good man. He's a good husband. He's a good father, along with being, a good sheriff for the community. He's a good man.
So what you're, I think, essentially saying, he's a people person.
Yes, he is.
Okay, and he cares about how the people regard him and how he is able to regard them as fellow neighbors, fellow citizens.
Right.
And that's a hard combination sometimes to come by.
Yeah.
Do you think that experience in this job has changed Kenny?
It certainly made him look older. So I think, there's a little bit of stress, but for the most part, no. Kenny is what Kenny has always been, and he's very dedicated to whatever type of work he is doing.
Well, you're certainly one of his best assets.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And take care. Remember, we have another lovely lady coming up next week who will be representing her husband, who's also running for sheriff. Take care. Have a good evening. Good night.
Hi, I'm Genevieve Frederick, founder and executive director of Pets of the Homeless.
Pets of the Homeless is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization that provides pet food and veterinary care to the homeless and less fortunate in local communities.
We're a national organization with over 200 collection sites across the United States, one in Australia and a few in Canada. Our national organization, since 2008, we've collected almost 50 tons of pet food that has been distributed through various organizations across the country, like food banks, homeless shelters, and soup dining rooms. With donations from the public, we are able to provide these kinds of wellness clinics across the country. Since 2008, our wellness clinics have provided over 2,500 animals with shots and medical care.
I'm Dr. Woody Allen. I'm a semi-retired veterinarian in Carson City, and I have worked with the Pets of the Homeless for about 4 or 5 years now. And when Genevieve Frederick started the program, our hospital was the first hospital to help her with collecting dog food and finding people that needed our help. On this website, you'll be able to find sources where you can get food on a regular basis if you need it.
With donations from the public, we're able to provide homeless shelters with crates, bowls, cleaning materials, so that homeless with pets can come into homeless shelters and get the services that they need to get out of homelessness.
If you are in need of food, supplies, or services for your pet, or would like to donate or volunteer, visit petsofthehomeless.org.
How would you feel if a fire broke out in your home and you couldn't hear the smoke alarm? Especially if it's someone you love. Visit ReadyWasher.com to receive a smoke alarm that is specially designed for the deaf and hard of hearing. These smoke alarms send a wireless signal to a receiver that gives you strobe and vibration notification.
Local fire departments urge everyone to be prepared.
Visit ReadyWasher.com to help assure the safety of your family.
A fire-adapted community is prepared to survive a wildfire with little or no firefighter assistance. To help prevent ignition by embers, remove dead and dying plants from around your home. Be sure to remove low-hanging branches and the flammable plants underneath your trees, also known as ladder fuels. Non-flammable plants and pathways create separation and help prevent fire from spreading to your home. Make it lean, clean, and green.
Visit livingwithfire.info for more tips to save your home.